maybe you share some similar beliefs. If not, that's perfectly fine. This is definitely not a debate show. I'm not here to chastise you or try to get you. I'm not out to get you. This is definitely more a space for connection, communication, discussion. So that's what this is. I'm Sophie of sexwithsophie.com. I teach people how to talk to each other about very difficult and sensitive topics. And so that's kind of how I merged into this. So honestly, I'm a baby TikToker. I just got guest access. So if you want to apply to be a guest or whatever, you can click that button. If you're watching from TikTok, I do have streams going in other places. If you want to jump on the show, you will have to call the number on your screen. If you choose to do that, just so you know, you can press *67 before you enter your number or my number, and that way it'll block your phone number from my caller ID if that's a concern of yours. So yeah, until I get a calls or any guest requests, I'm just here to, again, open this space to you. But I did have some topics on my mind, just considering some of the... Oh, I know, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, just considering some of the current events and also, I guess, like a culmination of things that I've talked about in previous shows. So DEI has been heavy on a lot of people's minds. So again, you're welcome to jump in and chat about that or any of the topics that I have listed above or above, depending on where you're watching from. So ultimately, this is, again, just a time and space for you. I was thinking, though, when it comes to DEI in particular, I've always said that, again, I don't think we're adversaries if you're on the right, if you're anti-DEI, but I just want you to know that DEI, the opposite of that, diversity, equity, inclusion, is going to be homogeneity, oppression, and exclusion. And so if you're for those things, I'd love to know why. I'd love to know why those are things that you prefer over diversity, equity, and inclusion. Traveler says DEI is racist. What is your definition of racist? I would love to know how diversity, equity, and inclusion are racist things. When, again, the opposite of those things are homogeneity, segregation, oppression, exclusion, which sound a lot more racist to me. But again, if I'm wrong, let me know. I'd love for you to jump on as a guest and we can have a chit chat about it. Or if you want to call the number on your screen, you're welcome to do so. But yeah, when it comes to DEI, you hear that a lot, like, oh, that it's racist. And I think that people say that because they know that to call somebody racist is to call them a bad person, is to say that they're on the wrong side of good. And I think that it's really difficult for people who are racist, like people who are anti-DEI. It's difficult for them to actually embrace that about themselves, and so they project it. Study, work hard, be nice, no need for DEI. What do you think? What is it that you think DEI is? Because a lot of times when I hear that, like study, work hard, be nice, you're basically trying to say, oh, you should be qualified, get the experience, get the education that you need in order to do these jobs and get into these schools. And the truth of the matter is that DEI is not about lowering standards. It's not about lowering qualifications. Again, I feel like saying that really doesn't matter so much, though, unfortunately. I've noticed that even if you correct people or provide people who are very anti-DEI, provide them with the actual information of what it is, DEI is immoral. That's exactly what it is. Explain how it's immoral to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. And again, I don't think we're on different pages, believe it or not. So, Traveler, you're upset about DEI. How about sports? Yeah, I think trans women in sports, awesome, all day. If you want to chat about it, again, you can apply to be a guest or hit the button to be a guest. But yeah, with DEI, what we're all saying, Mike says it's color and gender over qualifications. Again, that's just not true. But I think what your ire is about it is that there are people who are qualified. There are people who worked really hard and they are trying to get their foot in the door to get a job or to get accepted into a school, and they're being denied that opportunity due to the color of their skin or their gender. And it sounds like you're very upset about that. And so if you're upset about people who are absolutely qualified for a role not having an opportunity to get that role due to their color or their race or their gender or whatever, you and I are saying the exact same things. That is fucking DEI, friends. So to be anti DEI is so strange to me because you're saying you're upset about the same things that I'm upset about. Affirmative action and DEI are dead. Yeah, they are. DEI for who? Diversity, equity, and inclusion is for everyone. Harvard, Boston, 14 African Americans doctors graduated on a lower standard than others. Look it up. That's just not true. I mean, if you have a source, you're welcome to put a link or whatever. But again, the fact that you're saying that there's this lowering of standards, lowering of qualifications, again, it's just not true. But I want you to ask yourself, oh, how in the world are abortions awesome? They're amazing. If I didn't have an abortion, I would not have this little one. So I am a big fan. If you want to chat about it, you're welcome to hit the guest button. But again, if you're mad about abortions, if you're mad about DEI, I'm here to again offer a safe space. I'm not trying to belittle anyone or make you feel backed into a corner. I genuinely want to pick your brain and unpack some of these things that you're so angry about. DEI for everyone who will stand not to benefit. Well, what's sad is we kind of know who stands not to benefit. And for the most part, the group of people who gets the most benefit from DEI is white women. So it's sad that, all these people, especially white people who are so against DEI programs or DEI leadership, when in reality, the person who, or the people who get the most benefit from them are white women, white people. It's insane to me. What about NFL? More black players than anyone else. The NFL is a nonprofit organization. They're not beholden to any stockholders or the government. So, they can do whatever they want. Yeah. So, I mean, when we talk about abortion, somebody said that I would have a different one. That is not true. My first IVF attempt ended in a miscarriage, which is also called a spontaneous abortion, but that's not the type of abortion I had. I lost my baby at 7 weeks, and I had to have a DNC, dilation and curettage, which is an abortion. And so, unfortunately, I had to have an abortion, and it sucked. It was the most painful experience of my life because drugs don't work on me for some reason. And so I hated it, but glad to have done it. Would do it again in a heartbeat because I had to remove my dead fetus's body from my body so that I wouldn't die from sepsis. And then I was able to, 30 days later, have my second IVF attempt, which brought me this little one. So no, I wouldn't have had a different one because my baby died. And so that's not possible. But I appreciate your saying that. Okay, I got some links here. I'll certainly check those out, Mike. I'm gonna see if I can actually pull them up on my computer. Because I appreciate you providing that. But again, I'm just gonna let you know, like this is not a debate show. I'm not here looking for, oh, where are your sources, man? Like that. I don't give a shit. I'm genuinely trying to get down to the I guess the brass tacks about why you feel the way you do. But again, I do appreciate you sharing this I did ask for it, so let me try to have a look here. Um, I don't see how to see comments. Let me see if I can. And again, I'm a baby TikToker, so just bear with me. I'm trying to figure all this out. And I'm streaming through my other places too. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I'm not seeing a way to actually click the link, but I will check it out, Mike. I promise. Like in fact, let me actually screenshot this so I can take a look for myself. But if you don't mind, it sounds like the reason you wanted to share this is to essentially prove that DEI is all about lowering standards. And so it says UCLA med students alarmingly substandard school cuts corners. Um, just from that title alone, I'm not sure I'm seeing how that's specific to Black people. So I don't know if you want to jump on as a guest and maybe read the section that's alluding to that. Um, but again, just to kind of get down to the fundamental nature of what your argument is, and again, not to argue, but it sounds like you're saying that, again, you believe that DEI is about lowering standards. Um, when that's just not the case, you know. So ultimately, if you're applying for a job and that company is wanting to hire the best people, what makes you think that they're going to accept subpar applicants or participants or students? You know, it's all about, at least it's all about DEI is giving people the opportunity who otherwise wouldn't have had it. So it's giving equally qualified or and a lot of times overqualified people chances that they just wouldn't have otherwise, which I think is why perhaps you might be upset about DEI, because you feel like it's robbing white people of who are very deserving of opportunities. All we're saying is let's apply that to more demographics, that if you're qualified and you studied and you got the experience and you put in a stellar application, then you should absolutely have the ability to get that job interview, or at least go to the next steps in the interview or hiring or recruitment processes. So that's all it is. And honestly, too, a lot of the stuff we talk about with DEI when it comes to the standards and qualifications, all that actually was more related to affirmative action, which was removed by the Supreme Court over a year ago now at this point. And so we kind of have a litmus test from that, right? Oh, Mike says it's mostly race and gender for hiring because a lot of places need to have an inclusive workplace. That's not true at all. I think there was a beautiful recommitment to uh, companies who wanted to increase their inclusivity and jump on the whole DEI bandwagon after the George Floyd thing. I think you're seeing some of the companies who literally just did it for PR marketing purposes, like Target and shit. Like, you know, real quick 180ing on that Facebook. So, you know, not every company has to do that. But again, when it came to like affirmative action, yeah, that was back in the day when people kind of had to uh, basically say that if there were equally qualified people, that you should weight the more marginalized demographics higher. So if we look at the litmus test of affirmative action being taken away, I read an article, and again, I'm not great with sources, but I read an article that basically said that the groups that were most impacted by affirmative action being removed were Asian people who weren't getting accepted into colleges at a higher rate like they anticipated with affirmative action being uh, taken away, which is, I think, there was a group of Asian students who actually brought the case to have affirmative action taken away. And then they did, and they didn't actually benefit from that. But also white women. Again, white women are disproportionately affected when DEI programs are removed and affirmative action was removed. So it's not hurting Black people in this, and I guess in the way that they associate DEI with just Black people for some reason. But again, I think that if you're anti DEI, you know, once you understand what it is and what it isn't, then you know you have to ask yourself, am I why am I so angry about this? What's really rubbing me the wrong way? Once I have the correct information, am I going to internalize that and say, oh, I just didn't realize that. Sorry. I didn't realize that they're not lowering standards. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that they were actually, more overqualified qualified people seeking roles or trying to get into universities or whatever the case is. I've never had that happen. I've never seen someone say, "Oh, thank you for that correction." It's always just this double down on, "Oh, DEI is bad. DEI is racist." Like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, I'd love to know why it again rubs you the wrong way to see people who were not given those opportunities. It's wild to me because again, I do believe the opposite of DEI is homogeneity, interbreeding, incestuous type fucking, companies and universities, oppression and exclusion or segregation. So to be anti DEI is literally the definition of racism. So again, just trying to unpack that a little bit. So if you if you want to come on as a guest and chit chat about it a little bit, this is your time. This is your space to call a liberal. If you want to dial the number on your screen, you're more than welcome to do that as well, especially if you're watching from somewhere other than TikTok. I am streaming to YouTube and Twitch and X and all these other places, but also really alt-right platforms like I'm on Locals and X and Kick and also on Rumble. So all my Rumble friends, again, I don't see us as adversaries. I don't think we're on the opposite side of anything. So that's what this whole thing is. I'm just trying to open the space so we can try to find some connection with one another. You're never going to see me yell at you or be upset with you. In fact, I posted a video of my first week on TikTok and how that went. And there was a lot of hard R's, thrown. But, if you need to get stuff out of your system and then we can have a conversation, that's fine too. But again, this is your time and your space to chat with a liberal, a Black woman, a Southern mom, somebody who maybe thinks and believes and feels a little differently than you do. And that's what this is. I'm again Sophie of sexwithsophie.com. And so I teach people how to talk to each other about sensitive and difficult topics, especially around sex and sexuality. So that's how I've gotten to be so, I guess, just interested in and I'm not going to say an authority on, but just very knowledgeable about things like abortion, things like trans people, things like women's rights and women's reproductive freedom and stuff like that. So it's wild how just being in the sex and sexuality space has overlapped with politics in to such a strong degree that now, again, I do feel like I'm offering a bit of a different space for people who want to chat about these things. Again, I'm not here to debate. Don't debate me, bro. If you want to debate, that's fine. I'll try my hand at it. My mom's been a high school debate coach for 40 years. So I grew up in that world. We could talk about your logical fallacies and whatever the fuck your arguments are. I don't give a shit. But that's not what I enjoy. That's not who I am. I'm very non-confrontational. And again, just want to really understand who you are and why you're maybe MAGA, why you're maybe racist, why you're maybe a white supremacist. Like, and also if you are those things, why do you feel uncomfortable owning that? Again, I'm on a lot of alt-right spaces, including one called Gab. And let me tell you, they don't hide it. They don't hide it there at all. And so, I actually feel like that there's a freedom to that. So if there are people who just embrace their white supremacy, why is that so difficult for the majority of people on the right to do? I just don't understand that. So, Aaron says DEI has become counterproductive. I get why it was a need. It did good, but it's not anymore. So does that mean that you believe that things like systemic racism and the gender wage gap are no longer problematic? Or that there are, opportunities for disabled people that are no longer, they don't need any assistance with advancing in their careers or going to school. Do you think we're done? Or just explain what are some, okay, we need better ideas to keep moving forward. Like what? Because again, I feel like the opposite of DEI is just homogeneity, oppression, actively harming groups as opposed to trying to help them, and exclusion and segregation, which is reminiscent of what time period, my friend? Um, so yeah, I mean, if you want to jump on as a guest, I'd love to chat with you about it, and understand what some of your ideas for moving forward might be. Because again, I think the issue does rile me up a bit, just because I feel like to be anti DEI, to be a proponent of homogeneity, oppression, and exclusion, to me just reeks of racism. I hate to say it like so bluntly. So if you feel like I'm wrong on that, like I'm more than happy to be corrected, because I do feel like people who think differently from me, who vote differently from me, are my friends. I think we're neighbors. I don't think you're my enemy or my adversary. I think you're good people. You're a good person. But unfortunately for me, I don't think you can be racist, and I just think to be racist is not in keeping with being a good person. So to be anti DEI or to be, ecstatic about its removal, it just speaks to me, that you're going to be challenging my hope that you're a good person. Aaron says race within the human race is a lie. We shouldn't be allowing a lie to still construct our lives. People of all races absolutely would agree with that. I guess the issue is that does that seem to be reflected in hiring practices in the medical industry, in the education system, and the criminal justice system today? Like, again, you feel like we're done then? You feel like, we've made it to that point where everyone has understood that race is a lie? Like, I just feel like you seem like an intelligent person. You're writing, full sentences. Like, that's awesome. And I think we can both agree that we're not done. We haven't reached that point. And if you think I'm wrong, if you absolutely feel like, yeah, we're a post-racial society, we have all accepted that race is a illusion. No, we aren't done, but DEI is not helping us move forward anymore. How isn't it? And again, I'd love to know some ideas on what you feel could advance us forward. I think what's so sad to me, kind of hearing you say this though, Aaron, is that DEI isn't just affirmative action, and it isn't just about race, ethnicity, or nationality. None of those things. It that's a part of it. But what DEI is opening up the door for more people. It is going into HBCUs or Chinatowns or more disabled populations and inviting them to the table. It's about talking about like hiring practices and how you write your job description so it's not as ableist. It is all these different ideas. DEI isn't this one thing, and it's not just affirmative action. It's this culmination and this confluence of different ideas that are being pushed, whether it's training, conferences, programs, systems. There's so many things that DEI contains that I fear, Aaron, that if all the beautiful ideas that you want to come up with, those would have been DEI. Anything that's seeking to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion. Even if you had this brilliant idea about, oh, maybe we should have webinars weekly with people from lower income areas and let them know about some job career trainings that they might not have otherwise seen. Like, what a great idea. That's fucking DEI, Aaron. Nobody's going to let you do that now because the Trump administration has banned it. So, again, I applaud you for understanding that no, we are not in a place where race is seen as the lie that it is. I agree with you. But knowing that we're not there and then still being a proponent of of abolishing DEI, that just doesn't track for me. So again, I'd love to understand what rubbed you so wrong about it. What was wrong with DEI? Like, what you said, it's not helping. How is it not helping? Um and what's so funny is, I do not think we're on different pages. I worked in DEI in the DEI space for a very long time, and I had my gripes. One of the biggest issues that I saw with DEI was that, oh, and I'm sorry, let me read your comment. We need to go back simply merit based and stop giving the lie space. Darling, when you say merit based, that means essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, to be hired on merit means that you should be hired for your qualifications, for your certifications, for your experience. You should be hired based on your ability to do this job and nothing else. Is that correct? I'm going to assume that's what you mean. DEI in and of itself isn't bad, but we have quotas because of DEI, because of humans. That's just not, again, that's just not true. That's just not true. Even if companies chose to put their hiring practices into a way that that particular company gave themselves targets to hit or quotas to hit, that's not what DEI or even affirmative action was. There were no actual set measures that anyone had to reach. These were all, if there were targets, they were instituted by these particular companies. You know what I'm saying? So if they didn't meet their own standards, then okay. But even with that, you have to think about, in practice, that is what it turned into. Um, okay, so why then throw the baby out with the bathwater? Let's say that's true. Let's say that it turned into, oh, now we have to meet all these targets for having marginalized groups in our company or at our university. Then okay, like, so if you're trying to make your company look more like the population of the United States or of your state or whatever, let's say again, nationally, black people, let's look at just black people, make up 13% of the population, right? So if maybe your company set a DEI goal to make your hiring look more like 13% black people in your company to match the, track with the population as a whole. How is it then oppressive for a white person when they can still access 87% of those jobs, or again, a vast majority of those jobs? Like, what would be the problem of opening up the door to a handful more of black people in order to get to that very small 13%, which a lot of companies don't even do? So what's wrong with having targets, especially when you're not lowering your standards or lowering your qualifications in order to reach those targets? I don't see the problem. But what I was going to say is, like, the issue that I have with DEI. Oh, you're okay. But the issue that I had with DEI was just the lack of analytics around it. Like, a lot of the analytics that we do see, unfortunately, they don't help the cause of the anti-DEI people, because they show that DEI largely benefits mainly white women, which is crazy. But I'd love to, especially in like education spaces and in with teachers, because that's where I work so heavily in. I'd love to see there be so much more research and evidence-based practice, as opposed to just like these kumbaya sessions that seem to occur more than anything. Because more than often they do lower, they do not, and it is assumed by hurt people who spread more lies. Now you're right there. I think that it is assumed that they're lowering standards, but just because we're worried that people will racistly believe that we let this black person in order to meet a target, so we lowered our standards in order to do so, just because we're scared somebody's going to think that doesn't mean that we should stop hiring black people just to eradicate the possibility that our white staff is going to be mad that we, you know, that we tried to reach a target that we set for ourselves. But then it creates more hate. How is that the black person's job to be concerned with that? Why would a black person say, oh, I'm not going to take this job because I don't want to perpetuate more hate? I think what we have to look at is the research that shows that whenever you tokenize people in an organization, that, oh gosh, Izzy, I see you, 1 second. Whenever we tokenize people in an organization, those people's voices still tend to not be heard. So whenever you only have one or two women in the conference room, or one or two Asian people, at the meeting, they still don't get brought into the fold. Their ideas are still not accepted or actually taken into account. But the research that I've seen shows that if you have at least 3 or more marginalized groups in that meeting, in that organization, in that department, on that team, then that tokenization actually goes away. So not only is DEI good in that it introduces marginalized groups into places that they otherwise wouldn't have been, and this is, again, usually overqualified or at least equally qualified people into these spaces. They need to do more. They actually do need to do more. Thanks for the follow, Aaron. I see you said you need to get to bed. Love to continue this conversation. Yeah, I'm on nightly. Definitely jump on whenever you get a chance. Really enjoyed chatting with you, and thank you for your opinions. Yeah, let's keep brainstorming some of this stuff, but I hope to see you soon. Thanks, Aaron. And Izzy, I see that you asked what my thoughts are on how much Trump has donated to black colleges and universities. Do you know how much he has Do you know how much he has donated? Follow her back. I can get those numbers for you. Or actually, I'm not going to do that. The thing is, Trump donated money to HBCUs in the measure of like billions. Biden donated like 3 times as much. So if we're looking at which president was better given, or better for DEI, or better for black people given how much they invested in historically black colleges and universities, it's going to be Biden, because he outpaced Trump by a multiple of 2 or 3 with his spending on HBCUs. Hey, you okay? So yeah, that's my thoughts there. Yeah, I'll pull it up for you. Let me see if my computer will let me just say it. um Trump versus Biden HBCU donations. I don't think it's donations, or I'll say spending. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT because that is really. I'm gonna pull up ChatGPT because I think they can clarify this a little easier. Alrighty. Okay, so Trump He signed the Future Act. He made an executive order about something. He did a funding increase. So let's see. Can you provide totals? Okay. So Trump's HBCU funding was $2.5 billion, which was from the Future Act and from STEM and research grants and from some debt relief programs. Joe Biden was over $7 billion. And this is just as of 2023, so we don't know what he did in his last year as president. But that was from the American Rescue Plan and from Department of Education grants, student aid, research funding, and additional infrastructure and workplace initiatives. So, yeah, it's like I said, if you're going to use this as a measurement for who better serve the Black community, it's going to be Biden. But Izzy, like, are you trying to prove that Trump is not racist by sharing this, or are you like, what's the point of lifting it up, or that he's pro DEI or something? Like, what is the hope with sharing this statistic? Like, are you hoping that I would change my heart about him, or like, because I just don't. Trump isn't racist though. Yeah, but he kind of is. And it's kind of been proven on a lot of different levels. So I mean, we can go all the way back to when he took out a full page ad in the New York Times to call for the death penalty for 5 young Black men who were wrongfully accused of raping a woman. Turns out they were exonerated. They didn't do that. He actually was taken to court for specifically telling his landlords not to rent out his properties to Black people. And then if we just genuinely look at what he just did since he's been inaugurated, he's literally attacked DEI programs in a capacity that you could literally just change the word DEI to Black people. Like, the FAA planes, all the planes that crashed were because of DEI, was because of Black people. It's just insane to me. If we even look at the fact that when he went to the Black journalists conversation, when he was on the campaign trail, that conference, and he accused Kamala Harris of not being Black or suddenly wanting to use her race card, that in itself is quite racist, to assume that she's not living every day as a Black woman. Even in that regard, in that same conference, he said that essentially he wanted to do the mass deportations and he didn't care about, the fact that people who do our farm work and our construction work and our landscaping and all these different things that are usually undocumented or immigrants or Hispanic people, that they were taking Black jobs. So the fact that he genuinely thinks that Black people are only capable of unskilled labor, are only capable of basically receiving the same exploitation that people do who don't have citizenship here, it's pretty shitty. Kamala is Indian. She's half Indian and half Jamaican. But if you look at her, she looks like a Black woman. And honestly, I think that's kind of the measure that we have to use in America, because America has, for hundreds of years lived by the 1 drop rule, where if you even look a little bit Black, you're Black. If you have 1 drop of Black blood, you're Black. Doesn't matter if you're mixed. Think about Obama. If you saw Obama walking down the street, would you think, oh, he must be half white, I'm going to treat him like a white man? No, you wouldn't do that. He's half Black. And here we go. We have a call coming in from Hi, friend. This is Sophie. May I ask you speaking?
Sure, yeah, this is Joe. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. Let me get my sound working here 'cause it is crazy.
Oh, you know what? It might be off because I have my Bluetooth on. Let me switch to speaker. That usually helps.
Okay, no worries. And you sound
Yeah,
fine
yeah.
now. I think that was more me. But yeah, I think it's all good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. Um, yeah, so what's on your mind? Did you have any thoughts on the topics that I have listed, or was there something else percolating for you?
Oh, no, no, no. Well, I was thinking about the DEI stuff,
Hmm.
and I was like, I was wondering what your thoughts are on, like, do you remember um the Occupy movement, like back in the 2000s?
I do, yeah.
So you remember how that that ended?
No.
Okay, so what happened was the way that they divided everybody up was they started doing like this weird like uh culture points with people, like you weren't allowed to talk if you were like a straight white man
Mm.
until the end, and like, but if you were like, you know, whatever whatever thing that you could like attribute to like some kind of weird oppression point type of person, like you got pushed to the front of the line. And with the DEI stuff, I kind of feel like look, I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, I kind of feel like we're getting a little bit psyoped on this stuff,
Mm.
where it's like the and actually I should be clear about, like, I'm older. I'm like in my 50s and grew up in the
What? You
90s.
sound
Like,
amazing, friend. I wouldn't have guessed that.
well, thank you. But the thing is, like, you know, like in the 90s, like nobody really, like, we didn't obsess on race at all. Like in my experience growing up, I grew up on the West Coast, so it's like nobody like cared about that stuff at all. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And then I feel like, uh, as especially during Obama's time in office, like that the race stuff started to get more like put into the zeitgeist, and it was just, to me it was weird. And the other thing too is, so in the 90s, I I, I grew up on the West Coast, but I lived in Washington D.C. for a little while, and I had never, like, just full disclosure, I'm white and blah blah blah, but like I had, it was like it was so weird to me, like, or not weird, it was just like, it was interesting living someplace that was like 90% black. And I worked in a mall it was when Marion Barry was in a bunch of trouble, and like, and we're getting all this like what to do in case of, you know, people like terrorizing the mall, like whatever. Anyway, it was weird. And like I never really thought about like race at all, like my whole life. And then when I was living in Washington D.C., like became really like, not front and center, but like more like, oh, there's actually like people don't like each other because of the color of their skin. Like I'd never ever thought about it like in my entire life. And I feel like the thing that's going on with, like, I just I feel like if people didn't think about it as much as they think about it, like it would kind of go away. But I don't know. What do you think? What's your feeling on that?
I think you literally just successfully described the word privilege. Like genuinely, I and
Do
not
you?
to say that I feel like people hear the word privilege and they're immediately like, "Oh, not I," like, or it's like it's a bad thing. It just is what it is. I mean, that is in effect kind of awesome that you have the privilege of not having to think about race until, a situation arises or people bring it up to you or whatever the case is. But I'll tell you right now, as a black woman, there's not a
Yeah.
second that goes by, especially in America when I live in the UK now. And it's not as much here by any means, but when I lived in America, my whole life. Again, there's not a day that went by that being black was not front and center to how I had to navigate my world. And so,
Well,
yeah,
where did you grow up at?
in Charlotte, North Carolina. So in the South, um, in the Bible Belt. But honestly, it's not like if I were in California or New York that I wouldn't have to feel the same way. I think it's funny that
Are you
uh
sure?
oh, I'm absolutely
Are you
sure.
sure?
I'm absolutely sure because
Well, okay,
oh,
so
sorry, go
here's
ahead.
the thing, like, look, here's the thing that I wonder about, because where I grew up, I live basically next door to a reservation, and all my friends in elementary school and then junior high were all Hopi Indians, and like I didn't look at them in any different way than I look at anybody else. Like it was like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want. I just feel like if people would like focus less on like the color of skin, like it to me it just seems weird because like I never thought about that stuff ever when I was growing up, and I still honestly I honestly don't care. Like you know what I mean?
I
Or
I do. I hear you loud and clear. And again, I think it's really sweet. Like I'm not discounting that you have a very, let's all just get along kind of a attitude about it. Um I think that what happens though is when we try to have this kind of colorblind way of handling difference, we tend
mhm.
to basically diminish that difference. And so to
How?
say, you don't see
Well,
how.
how? No, hold on. What? How?
Well, I think when it comes to this very kind of conversation, like to be opposed to DEI and programs that are intended to even the playing field for some of the different groups that you've lifted up, like Black people,
Well,
like
but
Native Americans.
hold on.
Uh huh.
Well, here's the thing is like if it's colorblind, then there is no reason for DEI. You follow what I'm saying?
But to in your mind be colorblind doesn't actually affect the reality that's not how the world, especially America, works. It's kind of like
Well,
when I was a
but
little
then
kid, my brother would be
mhm.
like, oh, I'm so tired. Sophie, go take a shower for me. Like so he didn't have to take a shower. So like how silly is that? It was just our a little inside joke we had with each other. But I think it kind of demonstrates that just because his experience and my experience can overlap in some ways, it doesn't mean he can experience what I'm experiencing. And so I think to then like negate again somebody's actual race or their actual nationality or their actual ethnicity, I think it makes you in a sense kind of blind to how those things have impacted that person and how especially systemically they still continue to do so. I mean, so you even said like
Yeah,
you were raised next to a reservation. Why do you think these people are on a reservation? And do you think that reservation looks anything like it should look if they weren't forced to be on those things, or Trail of Tears never happened, or Homestead Act never happened? Like, I mean, to this day, like you're seeing the effects of what was done to Native Americans still play out on Native Americans, and just by the mere fact of them having to live, or not having to, but kind of being forced to have lived there in the past. That they're still there. That should say
Right,
something.
right, right, right. No, I understand that. What I'm wondering is, I guess the crux of my thought on it is, and even with the reservation situation, like, how do we get to a place where everybody like gets treated equally without like trying to truly be colorblind about the the situation in America? You know what I mean? Like we're all it obvious. America's like a melting pot, etc. Like, how do we get there? I feel like the thing with DEI is
Well, can I address something you
that.
just said real quick? You said that
Sure,
America
sure,
is a melting pot.
sure.
And that is just not true. When I was in civics class in middle school, we learned about the melting pot, but we also learned about the mixed salad. And so America is not a melting pot. We're definitely more of a mixed salad where we certainly have a lot of different races and religions and ethnicities, but they're very segregated. They're very, very segregated. There's not much melting happening. Whereas,
Well,
again, I
no,
live in the
no,
UK, and our national
well,
dish here is an Indian curry. Like our actual
yeah, no.
oh, sorry.
I've been to the UK many times. I know what you're saying, and it's funny because it's funny. One of my friends, I'm in a band, and so I've toured Europe a ton of times, and the uh, booker for our band, I remember we were playing this weird show at Stokes on Trent. I don't know if you've heard of that place, but anyway, we show up and he's like, "This is the official dish of England," and it was curry, and I was like, "What? Okay, all right, whatever." But I guess what I'm trying to say, and like, I'm just working off of my experiences, like growing up in America, and all of my friends, like my best friend, is like Mexican. Literally, like my best friends have been of all different races. Like when I was in high school, my best friends were Vietnamese. Their parents owned a Photoshop. You know what I mean? Like, it, it, I guess what I'm getting at is I feel like the sooner we get off of the like people the salad scenario that you're talking
And
about and
start
get
melting more.
into like, well, no, I mean, it's like, well, let's get into reality. Like, the reality is there's all different races here, and if the races are going to stick together, okay, I guess we have to do like this weird thing. But I I kind of feel like that's not actually what's going on. And like I said before, growing up in the 90s, it's it wasn't this stuff wasn't on the menu like it is right now, and I feel like it's more toxic than it is helpful. And like I get that like people have this perception that there's nefarious like racists around every corner, and there are. I imagine there are. Like when I lived in DC, I saw it way more than I've ever seen it before, and it was like kind of shocking to me. But
Mm-hmm.
and I just feel like the sooner we get off the like racist around every corner, and just like if you see racism and like call it out, good. That's what we should do. But like pushing segregation, or not segregate. Let me try to word this correctly.
Sure.
Like pushing the stuff from the top down. I feel like it's dividing people in a weird way that I don't think is helpful. And I I kind of feel like if we could like if everybody just treated each other equal, like the same, and like I think it would be so much more helpful in the politics of what's going on. And I feel like the Democrats are kind of like escalating this this stuff and making it way more than it actually is, so that they can like hold on to power and like keep dividing people. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm
I
way
hear
off.
you, Joe. I hear you loud and clear, honey. Like I'm definitely I'm especially the more people I talk to who kind of feel like you do, like I can understand how you can move into this sort of way of thinking. And I think that the reason you do that is because it feels like to give up something, like to give or to give another group something, to acknowledge their lack and to try to correct how they have been harmed, or how they have been or how they've had things taken away from them, to give opportunity, to give uh inclusion, to give anything, to give acknowledgement, to give, coming from a place of privilege, feels like you're having to give of yourself. You're having to take away from yourself in order to give to someone else. So even to say, I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. There you
It's all
go.
right.
No,
You're
no,
good.
but no, but even to say like, oh, I haven't had to think about this my whole life. This isn't something that I've had to consider, and
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, but that's not the reality. The reality is like this, like the whole movement. It, it's it's
yeah, I mean,
not that I had to give. It's not that I had to give anything. And also, I'm not privileged by any stretch of the imagination. I'm broke. Like, I'm poor as shit. Like, whatever. Like, I the fact that people think that white people are privileged is retarded, and it's not true. Like, it.
well, what do you think
I
I
get
mean when
like,
I say privilege? Like, how are you assuming I'm defining that?
okay, this is what I think when people say privileged is like there's all these doors that are open to you because of the color of your skin. And that's honestly, that's what DEI is. Like, let's get off of that stuff, and let's, like, I understand, like, you're not a fan of meritocracy or whatever. And when you look at like who's doing best in America, it's not white people and it's not black people, it's Indian people and it's Asian people. Like, those are the people that are doing the best. So if you we can come back to your salad thing, that's the salad thing. That's who's actually like killing it in America right now. So
Well, I mean,
like
if you look
maybe,
at the top 1%, or the top earners, those aren't. Elon Musk isn't Asian. Jeff
yeah,
Bezos
he's South
isn't Asian.
African. He's an African American,
Yeah, Jeff
literally an African.
Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, but he's also white. You can be South African and be white.
Yeah,
So
he's an African
when it
American.
comes to, just to correct you, then to say privilege, you're saying it's that that you have these doors that are open. A, it's more so that you don't have doors that are closed, and B,
Yeah, but what? But in
to
current
open
society,
those.
what doors are
Hold on one
closed? What
second,
doors
because
are
I
closed to
can't talk while you
African
talk,
Americans?
because I can't hear too well, and then also it'll double up the sound. But so
Yeah, yeah.
A, it just means that doors are open for you that are closed for other people, but also it means that in order to open those doors for other people, it doesn't mean that they're closing doors for you. So does that make some sense? Like, again, I think you're thinking of it like this zero sum game, like where to give a little means you're giving up a little, or for somebody else to advance means that you're going to be set back. And that's not what,
No,
I
no,
think
no,
DEI
no,
or what I'm
no. That
saying either. Yeah,
no,
go
that's
ahead.
not what I
Sorry.
mean at all. No, it's not that. And I don't operate from the point of view that there's like a zero sum game. That's not where I'm coming at this from. I the thing that it's what I feel is like the I guess it what's that actor? Was it Denzel Washington who's no, it wasn't Denzel. It was gosh, I can't remember, but basically like it was back in the early aughts and a reporter asked him, it's like, how do we get rid of racism? And basically he just said, let's just stop talking about it. And that like it kind of rung true to me. And like I said, like just in my experience, like experience what I experienced in Washington D.C. and just seeing how like the it was so foreign to me that people cared that much about the color of skin that I was just like I was kind of appalled, honestly. And I could only imagine like maybe North Carolina is probably the same way. And it's just like, oh my God, it literally it grossed me out. I was like, I couldn't even believe like the stuff that I would hear. I was just like, this is insane. Like, and so to me, that's kind of like what comes back around with the DEI stuff is just like if we're focused so much on somebody's skin color, I feel it's just as racist as some Ku Klux Klan member running around talking about like whatever. You know what I'm like? I'm not. Uh, I'm just trying to actually get to a solution here, and I
Well,
feel like
uh-huh.
the way that we perpetuate this race talk and like people constantly talking about it, it it only perpetuates more racism, and I really wish that we could get away from it. That's all.
Well, I will say that again, I understand your point of view. I really do. I think that what might be helpful then is stop thinking of it as just you and your experience and the anecdotal nature of what happens to you, and stop thinking of it
Sure.
as me and my experience and what just happens with me. And let's
Yeah,
start
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at
yeah,
the
yeah.
well, hold
But
on, hold
like,
on.
let's get back.
I Because I can't.
I I understand. I understand anecdotal. Like, I understand all this stuff. I do.
But
What I'm
what
trying to
I'm
say
saying,
is,
no, no, hold on. Let me I didn't even say what I wanted to say.
no, go ahead. Go
Um,
ahead.
all I'm saying is that if you actually just take a step back and look at where the actual racism is emanating from, it's more of a systemic thing, an institutional thing. So it's not like anybody's out here
Isn't it
saying
though?
yes, and it's not like anybody's out here saying you Joe are racist. It's more so that
Well,
we're saying, hey, it seems like the criminal justice system is pretty fucking racist, and the education system is really racist, and the corporate America, capitalism, the meritocracy that we already exist in is pretty fucking racist. So we're not saying you in particular or me in particular, you know, are suffering or doing it. It's just that the way that the systems are working, the medical health industry, and you asked a question earlier that I thought was so sweet. You said, well, what can we do? What can we actually do to change some of these things? And sadly, the solution is DEI. But I think that when you hear DEI, what is it that you think I mean, or what is it that you think I'm saying?
well, the thing with the thing about DEI and what kind of irks me about it is that I just don't. I feel like the longer we judge people on the color of their skin, the longer we're going to have racism, and that's kind of my thing. I was listening to you earlier, and you were talking about how Trump's a racist and like that's for sure a thing. Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Okay. What was the very first thing Trump did when he won in 2016?
What?
Literally, the very first thing he did was fund all the HBCUs. Do you remember that?
Oh, but you didn't hear what we just said? Izzy had that same question.
No, I didn't hear. I turned off the video to call you.
Oh, no, no worries. Izzy said that same thing, that Trump funded all these HBCUs to the tune of $2.5 billion, right? But
Yeah, I
guess
don't remember the amount. I
it
just
was it
what I
was
remember
it
was
was 2.5
it was
it
for
was
10 years.
$2.5 billion that he gave to HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, and funding over the course of his 4 years. That's with the Futures Act, with some research grants, debt relief programs, things like that. Do you want to know how much
Yeah,
Joe Biden gave in HBCU funding?
yeah. Please tell me.
$7 billion. So over twice as much. And that's with even more programs: American Rescue Plan, Department of Education grants, student aid, research funding, the infrastructure and
Okay,
workplace initiatives. So if we're going to use
so
the metric of supporting HBCUs as a indicator for
well,
the level of racism, Biden is
okay,
just proving he's less
but
racist.
let's do Obama's 8 year run. How much did he do?
I'll check. I don't know.
I can tell you. Also, the are you a fan of Van Jones? Do you know who that is?
I do. Isn't he a journalist?
Yeah, he works for CNN.
Yeah, Obama gave about 4 billion, so still almost twice as much as Trump.
Well, it would be 2 billion per term, but yeah. So Van Jones and Donald Trump worked on the First Step program together,
The first what now? So
and
sorry.
the First Step program, you know what that is?
No, what is that?
So it was like uh, basically to help people that are in prison get out of prison, and like it was Van Jones like life's work to do this, and here's here's the thing, like I'm I'm a huge I was a huge uh Andrew Yang fan when he was running. Yeah, but that's over 8 years.
Oh, if can you hear me?
Yeah. Aw. Yeah, yeah, can you hear me? No, 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 you're fine.
Okay, but anyway, no, I get what you're saying, but if we can maybe take a step back, and just look at the
Sure.
fact that it sounds like you're hearing me say that Trump is racist, and you're now trying to prove that he is not racist, and
No, no.
which I can
Well,
appreciate. It's
okay,
fine,
but
but
here's
but
the here's the here's the thing. Like, it, calling somebody a racist, it's. I mean, okay, it,
why
it's
is that bad? Like, why do you think it's a bad thing to be racist?
well, I think our conversation has pretty much explained that to no end. Like the reason why I because I don't think race is important at all. That's the whole thing.
So if it's not important, than to say
Yeah.
that you don't like or mistreat or feel superior to another race, like I'm saying
Yeah.
about Donald Trump. Like, why does that rub you the wrong way if it doesn't matter? I'm just curious.
Well, uh, well, what I'm trying to say is I feel like it gets thrown around a little bit too much, and it brings me back to my original point of like I just the sooner that this stuff doesn't matter to people, the better off we're gonna be.
Well, I guess
Like
like,
I don't think that any less of you because of the color of your skin, like that doesn't matter to me at all.
well, you might
And
not,
if
but the issue is that when I go to have a baby, we have a higher chance of dying. If I go to ask for help from a police officer, I have a higher chance of actually getting shot instead of getting the help I'm requesting. If I go into mental to seek mental health care, there's a higher chance that again I'm going to receive more harm from doing that than help. There's, if I go through the education system, I have a lower chance of excelling. I have a lower chance of having uh, the same test scores as my white counterparts. Um, Literally every single aspect of America. Again, I'm not saying you, I'm not even saying specifically Donald Trump. I'm saying that the system and institution of America is very racist. And so for I guess like for me to say then that a perpetuator of that racism uh, is Donald Trump, and he has exhibited that he is a racist in all these regards, and I've listed those. Um, and then to hear
wait, hold on,
instead,
hold on, hold
because
on, hold
well,
on,
I'm just
hold on,
saying you
hold
started with, oh, how do we bridge these gaps? How do we fix this? And now it seems like we're at a place where you're like, no, it's not actually racist. And this is how
on.
I see
Okay,
it, and
well,
so I just don't
okay,
feel that's very genuine.
okay, let me. I'm giving you my genuine idea.
Okay.
This is the thing. So you honestly think focusing on race is going to help get rid of racism?
Yes, because again, that's been proven that when we start to
How? Prove
uncover,
that.
first of all, we've proven that America is implicitly and systemically racist. There's so much research out there, and that's what DEI includes is research and studies and
Well,
um
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold
yes.
on, hold on.
Okay.
So, you remember Reagan from the Olympics?
I sure do.
Okay. She has a PhD in breakdancing. So, I'm super not interested in what the academic people say because I don't really think that they're sending their best.
Well, did you see where she got that from? It wasn't like an accredited
Well,
university. It was just some shit she made up. And in fact, the
yeah,
person
yeah,
who,
but the people that are arguing this stuff,
but they come
like,
from accredited
you remember
universities
that?
where they've received like research funding due to DEI programs and stuff. So like, so we have
Yeah,
studies that
okay,
show
okay,
that the infant and maternal
okay,
mortality rate for Black women is almost 6 times, and in some cases 16 times higher for Black women. We have studies that show that if you have a Black person and a white person driving in a car, that if cops are able to see them, it's called the I think the daytime nighttime study or something. But if cops are able to see them, that Black people are like something like again 6 times more likely to be pulled over than if they're driving at night and they can't see what race the person driving is. There's so many studies too, like that show that teachers of all races, Black and white
okay,
teachers,
okay,
disproportionately
okay.
look for
So
look
this
for
this brings me back to my original. This brings me back to my original argument.
okay.
So if the cops aren't seeing race, then this problem is solved. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, it's the
let's
difference
get to a
between
colorblind
like
society.
visibly seeing or being literally blind to someone's race and that person not recognizing the implicit biases that they have when they actually see somebody's race. You know what I mean? So
Well,
like
let's get rid of the implicit bias and
and
not
that
see race.
yes, Joe, yes. Let's get rid of the implicit bias. And one of the only ways that has been proven to do that is DEI programs, and specifically
No, that
DEI
only perpetuates. It only
specifically.
perpetuates it
I
because
promise you
no,
it does
listen, it
not. I
only
promise you it
perpetuates
does
it.
not.
No, it does because you've got Asians suing Harvard right now. Like, this isn't helping. DEI isn't helping this.
Do you know
If we
why
want to
do
get
you
to a
know why the
colorblind,
Asians are suing Harvard?
yeah, because they can't get in.
Do you want to know why?
Yeah, no,
Cuz
please tell
cuz
me.
they sued to get rid of affirmative action.
Yeah, of
So
course
they
they
sued
did.
to get rid of affirmative action. We're still not, in fact, we're accepted less after affirmative action was taken away, and they're mad about the thing that they did. So it's absolutely proves the point that that the DEI programs were absolutely necessary, and so it's just kind of funny to me. But but no,
No,
listen. All I'm saying is that DEI isn't just affirmative action, though. Like DEI is corporate training on implicit bias. Hi, are you okay? She's so hot.
uh,
She's got a little
hey,
fever,
you
I
know
think.
what? I will call you back later on. I gotta
Sure.
go.
No,
And
Joe,
it was
lovely
a
speaking with you,
very
sir. Yeah, I hope you follow and
no.
yeah, definitely call back. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much. It was nice talking to you. Have a good night and love that little kid.
Thanks. Good night, Joe.
All right, bye bye.
What a sweetheart. Oh, I gotta say, like, I love that. I think that's so kind. That is so kind to say, I don't see race, and I wish everybody could not see race. I genuinely wish like Izzy was Izzy Aaron like Aaron was saying earlier, like can't we all just understand that race is this made up construct? Our DNA is all the same. That would be fantastic. That would be fantastic, but it's just not how the reality plays out. And again, we know this because of the studies that have been funded to investigate these things, because of research that happens around before and after metrics and KPIs when implicit bias training happens. And so, I mean, it's one of these things where to fix the problem, you have to uncover the problem to even to understand it first. So it would be lovely if we could just stop talking about race. I could stop talking about race all day, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be treated, you know, better, or I'm going to be treated just like a white woman would be treated, because of my race. And also, it seems like we're fixated on the race aspect of DEI when it's intended to, Joe said, it's intended to help all marginalized groups, people of other races, Asian people, Indian people, um, Hispanic people, but also other nationalities who speak different languages. So if you come over here and you speak um, Mandarin, or you speak Spanish, whatever language you speak, and it's hindering you from advancing or getting an education or moving forward in your chosen country, DEI programs are there to make sure that there's a translator, that documents are available in multiple languages. That's DEI. It's also intended for people who have lower income. Think about like Appalachia and trailer trash and stuff like there's so many white people, white men who are lower income. So DEI programs help them. If you're disabled, if you're LGBTQIA, legitimate qua, DEI helps so many more people than just Black people. But I think that, again, it all starts with understanding where these implicit biases lie in the first place so that we can then start to figure out how to get rid of them, how we can help people with trainings, we can help people with how they craft tests, how they craft job descriptions. Oh my God, you're so cute. Ba, ba, ba. Oh, so I mean, absolutely. I think DEI is super necessary. I think it's impossible to be actually colorblind. Living in the UK is where I feel that color blindness, or the concept of it, is actually realized. Like I don't feel like when I meet people living in the UK, I don't think that I have to circumnavigate their presuppositions about me. I don't have to. Oh, baby. Here you go. Okay. Oh, you're feeling really feverish. I do have a big ass blanket on her. Let me maybe move that. She's hot. Okay. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, again, the opposite of DEI is homogeneity, however you say it. Or basically like having a metaphorical interbreeding and incestuous corporations and universities, and we all know how that works out for people. The opposite of equity is oppression. It's literally keeping people down who are already marginalized, or it's, again, playing that zero sum game where you don't want to give to lift people up because you're afraid that that's taking something away from you. Um, which, again, I wanted to kind of get into this with Joe, but if you're racist, if you're deliberately trying to keep someone down or harm someone or suppress someone or oppress someone or a group, I just don't understand how that can pace with you feeling like that's a good person. So to see a lot of the things that Donald Trump has done, and he, especially most recently with abolishing DEI programs and making these EOs about DEI and blaming DEI for plane crashes and stuff, like, how do you not say, oh, that's pretty fucking racist. That's pretty racist. That's pretty misogynistic. And at that point, why does that not shatter your illusions about who he is? You okay? So that's all. I gotta say, I really enjoyed my conversation with Joe and all the brilliant people who have commented so far. But I am starting to get a little worried about baby girl, so I might go ahead and hang it up for the evening and put her to bed officially. It's 3 o'clock in the morning my way. So I was hoping she would get a little sleep, but it's not really happening. Oh, is it pretty? It's pretty. It's pretty. So yeah, I think I'm gonna hang it up. But again, I'm on nightly, just opening this space for anyone who wants to call a liberal. I am Sophie of sexwithsophie.com. I teach people how to talk to each other about difficult and sensitive topics, and so that's how this came about. Just, again, holding a space for people who want to have discussion and not debate, on some of the current events of the day and politics and whatnot. Let me quickly make sure I'm not missing anybody from some of my other platforms I'm streaming to, because I've been very negligent. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Like Rose, hi Rose. Sorry I missed you, Rose, Rosebud. Um, Maxie, hi friends. So sorry I missed you guys. I TikTok is kind of where it's at, you guys. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna need you to gonna need you to maybe get at me on there. I missed a comment From YouTube, DEI is meant to divide the working class and make it more difficult to organize on class lines. Um, Again, just not true. DEI is, if anything, intended to have more inclusion and more, inclusivity. So if you think about which president was pro working class and pro union and pro DEI, it's not Trump. It's definitely not Elon Musk. Joe Biden was the first president to walk on a picket line. He did so much with the Chips and Sciences Act, and he got our workforce back in order after COVID. I mean, Biden was pretty fucking awesome, man. And he was very pro DEI. A lot of programs got pushed and instituted under him, including again almost $7 billion to HBCUs. And so yeah, Biden was amazing. So if you look at the anti-Biden Donald Trump, um, and you think that he's going to be better for the working class and organize on class lines? No, sir. No, ma'am. So I appreciate the comment and the sentiment, but um, again, it's just not reflected in reality. But thanks for joining again. I see you've come back to me. Thank you, whatever. So yeah, sorry I've missed you guys. I get kind of fixated on TikTok. And then when I have a guest, I do want to give them my undivided attention. So thank you again, Joe, for the call. Um, I do have guest access now on TikTok. So I'm on nightly. Hopefully, if you feel comfortable, you will choose to come on as a guest and chit chat that way. Or again, you can always call the number on your screen. But I'm going to go ahead and hang it up for tonight just to get baby girl in the bed and get her some Calpol because she's a little feverish, I think. Poor thing. But I love you all. I'm so glad to be here with you this evening. And I hope you love one another, but with permission. Alrighty, friends. Good night.